We're snorting cap rates and shooting up cash flow here at Deal Junkies. Welcome back to Deal Junkies. I'm Gabe Johansson. I'm here in the studio today with Trevor Howard, Mike Nuss, and Dane McKinney for episode 101. This we're finally doing after like 80 episodes. I wanted to follow up and do fractional reserve banking. What in the hell is fractional?
And we were going to research it
banking?
After the Finding the Money review.
We did, but the more I researched it, the less I knew. And today I'm even more confused than when I started.
And Mike loves to talk about things he doesn't know about. So this is why
so much. And this is literally the seed that got us, Dane and I, fighting in the parking lot after Finding the Money.
Oh, so we may have a fight today.
A little bit. I mean, he did fractionalize himself by shrinking in a chair when you mentioned that.
Mike also admitted he was wrong after that episode, if you recall. He won't recall.
Don't
he
admit.
has a short-term memory on
nothing,
things
Mike.
that hurt.
No, I admit whenever I'm wrong, I admit that I'm wrong.
And then you forget about it.
Yeah. Yes.
I can't remember things
so that
like
you go
that.
do something wrong again.
Yeah. So that way you're like half narcissist, but not fully narcissist, and kind of vulnerable, but not.
Because you're like, oh, I'm sorry I did that to you again, but I didn't remember that I did it to you before.
My dad always said when we were growing up, he always said, we would say something, we'd argue with him, and then he'd end up being right. And he'd say, hey, don't feel bad about it. I've been wrong before. It's just so long ago, I don't remember it.
Yeah, that's about right.
That's how Mike feels about life.
My dad said he'd only ever been wrong once, and that was when he thought he was wrong and ended up being right.
That's a better line. Dang it. My dad's quote sucks.
So what is fractional reserve banking?
Okay, I'm gonna ask ChatGPT, since we don't have, our human brains can't grasp this. So ChatGPT says to us, fractional reserve banking is a banking system in which banks are required to keep only a fraction of their deposits as reserves, allowing them to lend out the remaining amount. This system enables banks to create money through lending. This is where Mike is not happy. As each loan effectively increases the money supply. Mike's shaking his head no,
it doesn't.
That's wrong. Okay, here are the key aspects.
I'm wrong, or that's wrong?
You're saying it's wrong, right? You're saying ChatGPT is wrong.
I believe that part of it is wrong.
Okay, so the key aspects, number one, reserve requirement. Banks must hold a certain percentage of deposits in reserve, either in their vaults or with the central bank. The percentage is set by the central bank, and commonly I think we've said that number is 10%. Oh, it talks about it here later on. Number two, money creation. When a bank lends out money, the borrower deposits it into another bank, which can then lend out a portion of that deposit, creating a multiplier effect on the money supply. Number three, liquidity and stability. Banks must balance their reserves to meet withdrawal demands while maximizing lending to generate profits. An example is if a bank has a 10% reserve requirement, it must keep $10 in reserves for every $100 deposited. The remaining $90 can be lent out. If the borrower deposits that $90 into another bank, that bank can lend out $81 and so on, expanding the money supply. This system allows for economic growth, but also introduces risks such as bank runs. If too many depositors withdraw their money at once and the bank lacks sufficient reserves, central banks manage these risks through monetary policy tools like setting reserve requirements and acting as lenders of last resort.
So I think to simplify that, the idea is Gabe comes into the bank with $1,000. There's a 10% reserve limit. Gabe deposits $1,000. Bank keeps $100, lends out $900 to Mike. Mike now has $900. Mike goes to a different bank and deposits his $900. And then they keep 10% of that, which is $90, and then lend out the $810 to Dane. And then Dane does the same thing, so on and so forth. So your $1,000 turns into 10 times the amount. You just...
Well, more than 10 times. Or is
I think it's 10 times. I think you would just divide it by the reserve ratio, and then that's how...
So 1,000 turns into 10,000.
$10,000 of total money in circulation and lending.
And Mike says that's not...
And this, well, my understanding is it's fractional reserve banking theory. Like it's not
really how it works.
No, this is just how banks work.
This is how it works. It doesn't actually
that's
create
not
money.
A theory. It does.
So it's a money creation theory.
This is where Dan and I are going to fight.
So I read a whole book. What was that book we read on this about money creation that says banks actually just create credit? And that's what they lend from. And it's fractional reserve banking theory, and banks are actually
This is what Mike talks about, a balance sheet, debits and credits, right?
Yeah, except banks don't do it. One bank does it.
The central bank.
Correct.
The Fed.
Correct. And then they change the 10%. They make it higher or lower. And when they make it lower, that increases the flow of money in the economy.
Reserve requirements, which they've recently changed.
When it goes lower, what does it do?
So say the bank reserves are at 10% set by the Fed.
Mm-hmm.
So we are in a recession. We need to stimulate the economy.
Drop it to 5.
They drop it to 5.
Mm-hmm.
So now banks put more money in. So that 10% is just money on the sidelines.
It speeds up money.
Yeah, and so going back to the original example, and here's why ChatGPT is wrong. This is why it does not create money, is because that $1,000 that Gabe deposits, it's already in the economy.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't go create it. You took money that's in the economy and you put it in the bank.
Mm-hmm.
And the bank took 10% of that and kept it on the sidelines. And they took 90% of money that was already in the economy and shifted it to a different place in the economy. It didn't create any more money. It's just pushing it around.
But they're lending out more money than they have the ability to. If we all go withdraw our money, you wouldn't be able to withdraw it. There's not enough money at the bank.
They don't have your money.
They don't have your money, so they are creating money.
On the balance sheet.
But how do we get the money?
Because if they say on their balance sheet that they have, let's say they're $1 billion bank, so they don't have $1 billion, they have $100 million. So if everybody wants their $1 billion, if we all go together to go get our $1 billion back, they can't give it to us, right? And the bank collapses.
Mike, you tell us.
Bank run.
Bank runs.
Tell us, Mike.
I mean, this happened at Silicon Valley Bank. It happened,
Yeah, but that's just because of the way that our system's created. It's the access to the money. But what actually changes the amount of money flowing through the market is that reserve amount, which is set by the Fed. Okay, so when his $900, just play it out in real.
But it increases the number of dollars that are circulating.
Because I only brought 1,000 to the table, and they made another 9,000 somewhere. They were able to lend out another 9,000 off of my 1,000, right?
But it didn't increase in the economy. It just shifted from one place in the economy to the other.
And where did it shift from?
Okay, so you go and get a loan to go buy a piece of real estate, right? It's going to the seller. They're saying that it's ultimately getting deposited back into the bank, into the economy. No, it's going to pay off another loan.
Maybe. So it's the fractional reserve banking. It's the idea is imperfect. It's not obviously not all the money is going to be deposited in.
I'm saying what actually affects the amount of money in the economy is what the Fed does with that percentage of reserves. That is what manipulates the economy.
So why does decreasing it increase the money supply?
Because the 10% is saying, the Fed's saying this needs to be on the sidelines.
Then the bank can loan more money out.
So when people want their money, we have something that we can give them.
I think you can create more money if you decrease the reserve ratio.
If Gabe has...
That's exactly what I said.
You just said money's not created through it.
If Gabe has $1,000...
It's increasing what's available to access.
Is it?
You're talking about access to capital.
So it's access to capital versus creation is what you're arguing right now?
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying no money is created, it's just you have more access to capital.
When they decrease the reserve ratio.
And Dane is saying money is created when they decrease the reserve ratio.
Gabe makes a deposit for $1,000. The Fed says you have access to 900 of that to go lend out.
Mm-hmm.
The bank does.
Right.
Yeah.
And then if they say, well, now you have access to 950 of it, you now lend $50 more.
Sure.
That puts more money into the system from the way it moves around standpoint. So it's that actual reserve amount is what affects the economy, not the process.
Yeah, but we're talking about now that money goes back into a deposit and is re-lent. So now you have more money lent than is collectible.
So you've pumped out more money into the the market than you can go. Then nobody can go get their money back.
Because what is an increase to money supply to you, in terms of M1, M0, and M2, or M0, M1, and M2? Money supply in the economy.
M2 is your money supply.
Total money supply,
including deposits. Is that right, or is that only M1?
Dude, you made $1,000 deposit. 100 of it is kept at the Fed. 900 of it reverberates through the economy.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the economy to begin with.
Yeah, but then what if that 900 goes back into the bank and then
So that 900 goes to the bank. It's still in the economy, hasn't been taken out, hasn't been put in. It now goes to that next bank. So they have to hold 10% of it, and 90 of it goes. That's not creating money.
Okay, let's look at it in a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
There's no dollars yet. There's only $1,000 in Bank One that Gabe put there. If Gabe then goes or if they go and lend it out, and then you get $900, and then Trevor gets $800, and then I get $700, and we only started with $1,000, okay? And then on the same day, all of us go pull our money that we have deposited, because I deposited $700, you deposited $800, you deposited $900, and you deposited $1,000. That $1,000, that it was only $1,000 in the economy that just moved places, is now $3,400. There's now $3,400 because that $3,400 can go.
Again, you're talking about access to capital.
They pull it out. I can pull it out. I can go pull it out. I can go pull that $700 out. He can pull the 8. You can pull the 9. He can pull the 1,000 out. We can all decide to do that on the same day.
Except then the bank's insolvent. And
the bank's insolvent. I totally agree. But what I'm saying is that there is more money that is now in flow, being traded. There's more U.S. dollars than what we started with, because the Fed has to give that money away. The Fed has to. That's the whole point of the. That's the whole point of the FDIC.
No, it doesn't. The Fed destroys money.
That's the whole point of the FDIC, though.
No, it's not. That's the point that's not the Fed. The point of the FDIC is to make you whole to a certain amount, to give you
up
insurance, so you have faith that you can access your money. You're going back to the beginning, which I understand, which goes back to the first bank, which is the government, which spends it in the government. Where we exist now, there is a certain amount of money in the economy. Banks are not pulling it out.
Can you explain the thing that I just asked about, though? How is there not $3,400? How does it not go from 1,000 to 3,400 or whatever it is? How does it not do that? Because what I'm saying is that we could then all go buy goods with the $3,400, which means there's more money supply than just the 1,000 that was originally there.
Because it's so fucking confused. I don't even want to try and explain it to you, because we're talking about two different things.
It's so confusing you can't understand it, and I'm not going to explain it to you.
And I understand it so well that I can't explain it. I understand it so well
because we're looking at it from two different nuances, and part of it is the chicken and the egg.
I'm simplifying it as much as you possibly can. What are you guys?
He's gonna punch you.
Is
in a minute.
This stupid? Are you?
I'm
what
tracking.
do you think?
I'm tracking.
Does what I said make sense?
Yeah, you're putting more money into the system.
There's more money.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
Than there was.
So Mike, tell us.
There's $3,400 instead of 1,000.
Hey, calm down, Mike.
Well, let's just do the math. Okay, so again, let's start over.
Let's do the math.
Let's start over, and I will track with you this time. I will try and track with you.
He will pay attention this time.
Yep.
Oh, you want me to do it again? Mm-hmm. Oh, I thought you were okay. Gabe's got $1,000.
Yep.
There's only $1,000. There's only $1,000. He deposits $1,000. You get a loan for $900. You go deposit it. Trevor gets a loan for $800. He goes and deposits it.
Well, stop. You're going so fast right now. So Gabe deposits $1,000.
Correct.
One bank.
Okay.
In one bank.
Yeah. So that bank keeps 100 on deposit.
Correct.
Which they put at the central bank.
Sure.
And then they have that $900, which then is given to me.
Same 900.
Yeah. Same 900.
I just
No money's been created.
Okay.
How has money been created in that transaction?
You're saying Gabe can't go pull out his $1,000, and if he pulls it out, then your money goes away, is what you're saying?
And this is where it diverges into an argument. You're talking about access. I'm talking about the amount of money. Yes, more money can be accessed. Does that mean there's more money in the system?
That's what money supply is.
Once you start accessing it, yes, I understand that portion of it.
This is Grant Cardone talks about this. He said, go put $1 million in the bank, and then go in there next week and ask them to give it back to you in cash, and they'll
see what happens.
They'll say, "Sorry, we can't do that."
In cash, I agree.
They can't do it.
So yeah, when you loan it and loan it and loan it and loan it. But what I'm saying is This is how the process started. What I'm saying is we are 100 years into this, and what actually changes the amount of money in the system, because we are where we are now, is what the Fed says that percentage needs to be.
Because they can lend out more money.
So go back when in our Finding the Money episode, which is where this comes from. I should have gone back and listened to it again, but we talked about debits and credits and how the way loans show up on a bank's balance sheet is the opposite of the way it shows up on our balance sheet. And that's what
he's not stating is, yes, you can go access that money, but there's another side of that balance sheet. And that's why nothing was added to the economy. The access is there.
Because it zeroes out.
Yes. There's on the other side, there's cash and a loan. There's cash and a loan. There's a debit and a credit.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is that if instead of there being $1,000 loaned out, there's now $10,000 loaned out. There's $9,000 more dollars
floating
through the economy. $9,000 more in debt.
Yeah, but I'm arguing money supply. I'm arguing that it increases the actual supply of money
for a period of time. Yeah, because there's now a time limit with maturity dates.
So the argument,
there we
go. The argument would be then that the cash lent out is an asset, but also the loans backing them are also an asset, right? Like
they switch sides.
So it's not just necessarily that, yes, there's more cash floating around in the system, but it's balanced out by loans, which are also assets just like cash, right?
So the balance sheet increases, and so yes, in that technique,
one's a liability. Your cash is
it's not a liability to the bank. When they lend the money, it's their asset.
No,
right?
I know your cash is the liability because you owe them the money.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not arguing with that. I'm not. I agree that it always balances out. What I disagree with is that there's less money flowing through the economy, or there's not more money flowing through the economy. It increases the money supply.
No, what increases the money supply is us creating more money and making more deposits.
How do we create more money? How does more money enter the market? Were you going back to ChatGPT?
No.
Oh, okay.
So I can tell you, maybe. Okay. So there's this book called "Where Does Money Come From" by Josh Ryan Collins or something like that. But this book is...
What's it called? Where's the money come from?
Where does money come from? And his point is that it's fractional reserve banking theory, and that's not actually how the money system works, and that it's all money is created through commercial banks just creating money by issuing loans, and it's not actually the fractional reserve banking.
They issue loans based on what?
But they issued the ability to issue loans is based on...
So this is why regulators are all over them when they're loaning money.
Yes.
Because they want to make sure the way they're pushing this money out of the market...
They're just creating it.
So that increases money supply?
So central bank,
as an example, if Mike got a loan for $900 and then you got a loan for $800, that would increase the money supply?
Don't be angry at me.
Because they're
angry at Mike.
In order to give that loan, they're taking money from somewhere to make that loan.
But from where?
No, the point of this
your
book
your $1,000 deposit to give the $900 loan, they take your $900 to give the loan. That $900 goes to the next bank, and then that bank takes $810 of that.
So that's how fractional reserve works. The point of this book is that's not how it truly works.
They're just lending out of thin air.
They're lending out of thin air, and they went and studied. This book is specifically based off the UK banking system. And they went and talked to all these banks and spent years and years to go study all this, and they realized no, they're literally just creating loans out of thin air.
Where does that start?
Well, they say at the commercial banking level.
No, at the central banking
They're
level.
saying that you should read the book. You would really like it.
I probably will, but it starts at the central bank level because they're the ones that can create credits out of nowhere. And then in turn, they can allow commercial banks to do the same.
So they're allowing those commercial banks to do that, piggybacking their ability to create...
They create loan facilities. So they print money. They say this loan facility is now going to exist. They created a fake credit on their electronic ledger that now says, we have this money. They created money for this credit facility. Mm-hmm. Now that credit facility has to get loaned into the marketplace.
That's not what this book says.
Have you read the book?
Yeah, and you haven't.
Have you read the book?
But Mike's right.
We'll do a book review.
This would be a good one to do it on. Yeah. Some of you guys in the room might be slow readers, so this episode might come way in the future.
By the way,
Episode 200.
full disclosure, I don't know that I think I'm right. I believe, based on how I watch it, that I understand.
But you just told Dane's wrong.
No, I understand exactly what Dane is saying. If we all try and access, and this is the problem. This is why. This is the fallacy where it's missing in Dane's statement.
Hell yeah.
If we all try to access the money at the same time, we cannot access it at the same time.
That's not
so
true.
we have not actually created any money. If
That's
we
not
could, we could all access it.
We can.
How?
When's the last time you had $900 in your bank account and you went to try to buy something and they didn't let you do it?
You literally just said a bank run. What is a bank run? A bank run is us not being able to access all of our capital at the same time, which says there is not enough money in the economy. So I understand what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying. To an extent.
What?
Wait, so Dane, how would you access all the money if it lends out in that way and you have 10,000?
What he's arguing is that it's not going to happen.
No,
and so
it's not what I'm
doesn't
arguing.
create
I'm
money?
saying physically, not everyone in the world who can access every penny they have in the bank at the same time. It cannot happen.
Because the money's not there.
Correct.
Because money was created.
No, credit was created.
Which Dane is saying is money supply, and you're saying it's not money supply.
has increased.
I'm not saying it's not money supply. I'm saying credit has been created, and that
I'm
is
saying
finite.
that there is
what
an
I'm saying
increase
is the
in money
federal bank, based on their reserves, dictates how much we're going to let that money supply grow and expand and shrink in vacuum of the fucking government doing what they do on the printing side. I'm saying that reserve amount.
So, okay, if the reserve amount was 100% and you couldn't give loans out, would the money supply be smaller than if it were 10%?
Yes.
Okay, so having a 10% reserve ratio increases the money supply.
Yes.
Increases the number of dollars in circulation.
Yes.
We agree.
At that time. It doesn't create money.
That increases the money supply.
So let's
That is the definition of creating money. There was $1,000 and now there's 10,000. You created money.
No.
They created money by lowering the reserve ratio. That is the creation of money. And all of those people can go spend that money. You will never, not once, have the bank say, no, you have $1,000, but we already gave a loan out, and so you can't spend that money. Yes, if everybody did it at the same time, it would be a problem. But not everybody does it at the same time, and you always have access to that capital. That's the whole point.
Have you put $1 million in the bank and then asked for it back the next day in cash?
the cash definitely doesn't exist. They might be able to write you a check.
We're speaking about the same things, but the mechanisms are different. So you're saying the individual banks create money, and what I'm saying is no, the central bank dictates what our individual banks can do.
They're piggybacking. So the central bank is regulating these community banks and these commercial banks to do their bidding. That's why when you're doing a loan, they've got 5 million boxes you got to check off to get the loan. It's not because the bank doesn't want to give you the loan. It's because they have to make sure that they're in regulation, or they're going to get shut down or fined or not be able to lend money anymore. So they're just following, like every time you're borrowing money, you're getting, it doesn't matter what loan you're borrowing, you're getting government sign off on every single one.
So let's get down to actual money creation. What we're saying is the amount of money in the system is 10 times more than the actual money we've created. That's what we're saying. The only way to actually create more money is to make more money, or you print it through the banking system.
What does that mean? We don't print money anymore.
Yeah, cash.
That is not the main way that money is created.
It's on a ledger.
$4 trillion was created during COVID.
It was a ledger.
None of that was printed.
It was just a ledger.
Yes, it was
all
just
credit.
a ledger. Yeah, because money's virtual now.
Now that's a different argument. I want to go back.
Dane.
Why do you call him Gabe when you're mad at him?
He does do that.
If the Fed says your reserves are 10%, what they're saying is the amount of total capital circulating through the economy can be 10 times the amount of money that's ever been earned than is in our economy. That is what they're saying.
Earned?
That money had to be created at some point. Earned is the word I used.
Okay. Sure.
What is money?
Spent into the economy.
I still don't know what money is.
Well, I mean, there's a definition of the three, whatever.
M0, M1, and M2.
And
No, that's not. It's
you're talking about it has to be a store of value. It has to be exchangeable,
dividable, or whatever the actual. Yeah.
When we printed $4 trillion, it wasn't the individual banks creating money. It didn't add to the money supply. It was the government saying, we created the spending bill. We're taking on debt. We need to sell that debt into the economy. Investors have to buy it, so they can either sell it to Fidelity PERS, and that takes investment capital out of the marketplace, or they can sell it to the central bank, and that adds capital to the marketplace. The money is created at the central bank level or at the government level. When it gets created at the government level, it just switches hands on the balance sheet. And so it's the Fed saying, yes, we're going to create credit to add money to the supply because the government needs to spend this money and we're going to bank that facility. The Fed can say, no, we have too much money in the marketplace. We're not going to buy any of that debt. You need to take it out of the economy from other investors, which means you're not going to get the same amount of value for it, which means the yields are going to be higher, interest rates are going to be higher. So there's a mechanism in there.
How the system works. What I'm arguing is that functionally it's identical.
Except the bank can't just say this is what we're going to do, because they will lose their license and they will go under.
Yeah, that's not what I'm arguing. But I'm not saying that the bank gets to make the decision of what the reserve ratio is. I'm saying that having that as a reserve ratio increases the number of dollars that are moving through the economy. It increases the number of dollars.
And now you're saying what I'm saying. Yeah, that's the reserve ratio.
I'm saying it increases money supply, though.
No, because the system's already been created. Like, it's done. The supply is done. Fractional reserves.
What you need to do is look up the definition of money supply here, because you guys are not agreeing on what
is money supply.
Yeah.
No, it's the balance sheet. It's all your.
Well, there's different levels of money supply, right?
Yeah,
you have
sure.
M2, M1. Keep talking. I'm looking it up.
Well, you just distracted me.
One just includes everybody's deposits.
Yeah.
And one doesn't. They're not too far apart from one another. It's like 22 trillion, or what's the number today? I don't even know.
Yeah, the difference is a state of time.
M0
what I'm saying
is liquid money, like physical currency. M1 is M0 plus deposits in your checking account. And then M2 is M1 plus M0.
Plus credit.
And it has savings accounts, money market funds, and small-time deposits. It's money that can be converted to cash relatively easily, but is not immediately spendable.
So from 0 to 2, it becomes less liquid. So 0 is all the way liquid. 1 is very easily liquidated, and 2, it takes a little bit because you got to call somebody.
Yeah, and then there's M3 and M4 also, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
the one we usually follow is M2. And
I personally follow M3, but...
And the only reason we talk about this is, for me anyway, because of Paul Curley talking about money creation. This is what's freaking him out over.
That's what causes
Trump
inflation.
and Doge is, money creation is what causes inflation, because your value of your dollar goes down, which is why we own buildings, because they are hard assets.
Yeah. No, we agree on that. What I'm saying is that from the real estate perspective, the bank creating more money by giving out loans, also creating credit. I'm not saying that the Fed has created more actual dollars, but what I'm saying is that there is more spendable dollars in the economy. M2 is increasing. Even if the Fed doesn't give out any more money, M2 increases when banks can give out loans like that.
From the
M2 increases.
Middle of 22 until last year, M2 decreased. It was actually going down.
Because they tightened everything.
Because they're taxing and burning the money. They're not introducing new money to the market. So as our money is coming off the street, they're not.
And you mean literally burning it?
Here's the easiest way for you to explain it to you, Dane.
Tell them what's up, Mike.
When a bank is making a loan, the bank is making a loan, they're taking it from one of two places. They're either taking it from your deposits, which is taking money out of the existing economy and moving it to a different place of the economy. It does not add value to money to the marketplace. The other side, they can get a loan from the Fed.
They borrow it.
They borrow it from the Fed. That actually adds money to the economy, because they're not getting it from the economy and moving it somewhere else in the economy. For me to get a loan on real estate, for my bank to make that loan, that money has to come from somewhere for them to make that loan. They are not increasing their credits simply by increasing their credits.
Hey, Mike. We've been asking you for the past 100 episodes, but will you actually do it for us and get Jay Scott to come on with us?
Yeah, I'll ask him. Fine.
Will you actually? Because we've asked 100
not until
times.
we actually get a. Until
So I
we
guess the 101st time, the
the
time
same
that you
answer when we can adequately technologically do a remote show.
We
we'll get
can. Me and Dane did one.
Is he not going to come fly in?
We'll fly him in.
Yeah, we'll
I
fly
don't
him
think
in.
he ever comes to Oregon.
Well, we got to give him a reason.
He loves Oregon.
Okay.
I don't go to
Who's Jay Scott?
wherever he lives.
He's kind of like Mike, but way smarter.
Way
Yeah,
smarter.
he's kind of like Mike,
Ridiculously smarter.
except he would agree with me.
I think I
on
follow him
this.
on Facebook. Is he
He
economist?
does Drunk Real Estate podcast with
Drunk,
AJ
yeah.
Osborne and those guys. And he loves all this stuff Mike
He's a
likes.
genius.
And
Yeah.
he syndicates real estate. And he's a pretty smart dude.
Significantly smarter than me.
Yeah. But he loves to argue too.
But I'm wrong most of the time, anyways. Apparently, because of Dane. I think so.
So right now you're right though, correct?
I don't know if I'm right.
But Dane's wrong for sure.
For sure, I'm wrong. Yeah.
Mike's
Right?
quote,
In that point of it, yeah.
his
Yeah.
quote was, "I don't know if I think I'm right." That's what I heard. That's what I heard you say. And I thought, what does that mean exactly?
Yeah.
You don't know if you
I
think
don't
you're
know if
right?
I'm wrong. I think I might be right.
You think you're right.
I think Dane and I are both partially right.
All right, Gabe,
And
let's
there's a
vote.
small nuance.
I'm even more confused now than when we started. This is what happens when we
I'm
start
glad
going
it's-
down this road.
I mean, we want to do the analogy again.
According
No,
to the book
but-
I read, you're both wrong. And that's just a
it just
theory.
comes out of thin air. So then what they're doing is they're manipulating the ledger based on how fast or slow they want money to move, which means that they're the ones dictating, telling these banks to not loan money right now or
Yes.
over the last
You're talking
couple
about the central
years.
bank.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Fed is telling, or the central bank is telling these community lenders, don't put more loans out into the world because we're slowing money down right now.
Yeah. And so think of the Fed as like a puppet master. And then on the other side, you have a different puppet master in the government. And the two are fighting each other and they're puppets.
This might be very ignorant to say, but I used to try to learn a lot about how this worked. And then I realized
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
I mean, it does, though.
But it feels like it should, but
It's
it doesn't
the
affect my decisions.
It's a foundation, though, to what we do. It's like it's kind of at the core of our whole philosophy. So we need to understand it.
I equate it to infinity. In our brain, we know fractions, the denominator can just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and that number gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and we just approach. We'll never get there.
Fair enough, right? That's not.
A fraction.
I'm not sure you
It's the
understand
easiest, best
how
way to
infinity
explain
works.
infinity. Like you can always make a smaller fraction.
Infinity is an imaginary number.
Yeah. Like,
But
but the way a fraction
how to
works
calculate
is
infinity?
the denominator can get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Just your number gets
How do you
bigger and
calculate
bigger.
the
infinity?
denominator or the numerator?
The denominator, which
Gets
makes
bigger?
the fraction smaller.
Yeah.
We can never get to zero.
You can get to zero
One
if you take
can
zero
never
and
get to
divide
zero.
by. Oh, if you one, yeah,
'Cause-
sure,
yeah.
one divided by anything,
Yes.
sure.
You have one. Yes, correct.
Mhm.
So we cannot fathom infinity. Like I don't need to understand infinity, but I can understand the process of one divided by a larger number just gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and never gets to zero. So you can, like on the banking side, sure, it works this way. Do I need to understand it? Absolutely. So I can get to infinity, or so I can get to this is the exact process of no, but I need to just understand it to the point where I can use it.
Do you know what a number divided by zero is?
Zero.
Zero.
It's the error.
That's what
On a calculator.
calculator said.
Don't you think it's, infinity?
E. What?
A number divided by zero?
is zero.
No,
Is it
it's
infinity?
undefined. But
Yeah.
in math terms, you'll use infinity sometimes for that.
You guys are nerds.
You guys.
I know.
I forgot how
zero-
to do the math. We used to have to calculate this stuff when I was doing all this.
I'm
math.
a words guy. Math is hard. That's why I have you.
I do words.
I gotta go play golf.
Tell me in words.
What
not in
time's your
numbers.
tea time?
110, but the
gotta play
fucking
it,
I went to
fine.
car wash Washman and they took I had my golf shoes in the back.
Mm-hmm.
They have my golf shoes. They got my dog
Okay,
leash.
that's
they
on
got-
the way to the golf course
I know,
from here.
but
So it'll take you
I
5
gotta
minutes.
deal with
You got
human
like an
beings.
hour and a half left.
I deal with human beings.
So do you think that when they decrease the required reserve ratio, it causes inflation because more money is in
Yeah,
M1
that's the
and
whole point of stimulation.
because more money is in M1 and M2.
More money is flowing.
More money is in M1 and M2.
So, it's interesting. You talked about
This guy doesn't understand the
wait,
idea of a
wait.
substitute
Do you
baseball
think-
player.
So,
Do you think
Like the team size is 14. 9 can be on the field at a time.
Do you think that
If we change a law that says now you can have 10 on the field at the same time, now 10 are playing, but the team's still 14.
Wait, but do you think that
It's just now 10 are on the field,
yeah.
4 on the bench.
No, I understand what
Instead
you're
of 9
saying.
on the field and 5 on the bench, you have 10 on the field, 4 on the bench.
That's where you're wrong. Yeah.
No, that's exactly where I'm
No,
right, and you don't understand.
No, it's you saying that the same player can play for multiple teams at the same time.
No.
That's what it does. Because the money is moving, but it still shows it's in the account. The same account. Gabe's when the money gets loaned out, Gabe's checking account does not decrease. The value in his checking account when they loan out that $900 does
Stays
not
the same,
decrease.
yeah.
It's still $1,000. So it's saying that you can have that player go play for another team while Gabe can still use him on your team. That's
I understand what you're saying. And that's the access conversation.
Whenever have
You've created more access to more
tried,
capital that we cannot access at the same time.
This is why I wanted to do this.
When have you ever tried to spend the money that you've had in your checking account and the bank has said no, because actually Gabe decided that he was going to buy a car today, and so since he decided he wanted a car, you can't have a car on the same day because Gabe bought his car today. Do you understand how dumb that's? Sorry, that was mean.
No, I understand exactly what you're saying.
That was mean.
I understand
so what
exactly
I'm saying,
what you're saying
is that there's more money flowing through the economy.
Wait, but when you go back to a bank run, they did tell everybody they can't take their money because everybody went to get the money
So
and it wasn't there.
I'm saying that was a problem in the past and it's not a problem now because everything is traded electronically.
How can we have more money if we all can't access it at the same time?
Because you can though.
I'm setting you up for success with that statement.
You can't access it at the same time. That's why the bank got shut down and the FDIC.
So we actually haven't actually created any money.
Use SVB as an example. Go back just a year or two ago.
We haven't created any money. We've created the access to it.
It's not cash. It's just on a ledger. But then everybody goes, holy shit, they're going to run out of money. And they go in and they say, I want my $30 billion out. I want my $20 billion out. And they're big depositors.
And then we stop the fucking bank from operating.
So they tell them to transfer it over to a different account. Go to Chase Bank. Go to wherever. And then they go, holy crap, we don't have that money on our balance sheet to transfer to another bank because we don't have the money. It's all out. We bought bonds with it. So we'd have to go sell those bonds at a loss.
Oh, wait. Totally. They still have something to show. There's an asset to offset
the liability.
No.
Except it was a bad asset because it went down in value because bonds.
Oh, so we created a whole bunch of capital we can't not access.
You can't be serious.
We're both right. You know this, right?
Dane.
You're just looking at it through a lens.
I'm looking at it from the lens that actually matters, which is the inflationary lens to us. That's what causes it. Is there is more money flowing through the economy than actually should be. Because too many loans are going out. And we can all access that money.
But that's not from our banking system.
And what happened with SVB?
See, again, now here's the nuance.
Did they say, no, that's not your money anymore?
Here is the nuance. That's not how it happens anymore because you have the central bank. And again, I got distracted.
But in that case, somebody who had billions in there, technically FDIC protects you up to $250,000 per account, right?
Yeah.
But then they're like, oh, but $20 billion in this case, we'll go ahead and give you your $20 billion. FDIC just stepped in because they're like, well,
because you can't have bank runs.
Because if that bank collapses, it's going to create a chain of bank runs.
Yes.
And so then the government just steps in and says,
and they said, wait, actually, you do have all your money.
Okay, so
all your money is actually there.
So did they have to create money for that?
They could have, but they didn't. They said, no, you're good, but not everybody pulled the money out.
Okay. Fractional reserve banking increases the money
M1
supply.
and M2.
The live day-to-day action of us making deposits does not increase the money supply. It's very fucking important for people to understand this.
Watch your language.
Gabe goes and makes a deposit. That does not increase the money supply.
It moved it out of my
Where
wallet
are we
into my
at
bank
in time?
account.
Where we are at in time is anyone making deposits is not increasing the bank supply. And that's where people get messed up is you think, oh, I'm going to go make a deposit of this and now the bank just lends out. No,
why
they did
are you
not
using
increase
funny
it.
voices?
Okay.
Because it's a
you
stupid
did.
statement.
He's copying you. But I don't know. I don't know
where
that
we
it is.
are at now in time.
I
The
liked it
money
more when I did
supply is regulated by the Fed and the government.
Okay, I have another question. Over the last 3 years, every lender has come to me, take me to lunch, and say, we want a relationship with you.
Because they
Gabe.
want the deposits.
Why do they want the deposits?
Because their balance sheets is out of whack.
And why do they want to get their balance sheet back into whack?
So they can lend more money.
So they can lend more money.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But in order to do that,
they need my deposits
to be taken from somewhere else in the economy
and push it into their
and
balance
put it into
sheet
their balance
so
sheet.
that they're solvent again to be able to loan the money.
So you're taking your 100%,
We're
you're
not
taking your
disagreeing.
lever and moving your lever here so they can wag the other tail of it. It's just one bank wagging the tail versus the other bank wagging the tail.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
What are you fucking talking about?
I don't know what wagging the tail means. That's not a phrase. People don't say that. Hey, can you comment below if you've ever heard anybody use
what,
that?
tail wagging the dog?
Wagging the tail.
Oh.
Just wag. It's one bank wagging the tail versus another bank wagging the tail, as banks do.
Okay.
They don't
He's
create
gonna
money.
punch-
They just wag tails.
He took his
The
coat off. He's gonna punch you.
only way we create
Mike's
more money through fractional reserves is if we make a aggregate more of deposits. Gabe is explaining pulling one deposit somewhere, putting it the other. That does not add money. It is in the economy. The only way to add money to the economy is to add more money to the economy.
Are you saying
that comes from the government? It comes from the Fed.
You're saying M0.
So
I'm saying M2. That's where we're disagreeing.
Where does M2 come from?
M2
M1 plus
is a
M0 plus
correct.
some other stuff.
It's a multiplier on it though.
No, it is not.
So
Dang.
what happened when I take my money, if the bank comes to me and says that we want a relationship and I pull my money out of one bank and I put it into their bank, then all I did was...
No, you can't. You don't have access to it.
Well, yeah, if there's a
No,
bank
there's
record.
no access. You can't go take
but,
money.
But what happened was I created a scenario where now one bank can lend less money and the other bank can lend more.
Yeah.
But
It's a net neutral.
It's a net neutral. In
How is that
case.
not a net neutral?
Because I limited one bank's ability to lend,
And Dane thinks
and I
that's not
helped
a
the
net
others.
neutral. How is that not a
the
net
same
neutral?
thing we're talking. I agree with that. That's not what we're talking about.
No, it is exactly what we're talking
Isn't
about.
that what we're talking
He wants to
about?
talk about in a vacuum.
I'm not talking about. Yes,
He wants
in
to
a
talk about the
vacuum, that's
existence, how the
simplest-
system started. He doesn't talk about what we're doing right now.
Okay.
I actually agree with Dane, but I don't know why. But I think you're
Because I-
both.
No,
I think
because
you're
he's
both right.
correct.
I
Because
think you're
I-
both right. I think you're both right.
He
I think
just
you're
doesn't
both
want to
wrong.
acknowledge that that's not how it works anymore. We have regulations on it.
You're both wrong.
So if you take the whole entire system now in a vacuum,
The only way to add money to it is to print money at the central bank level,
which is driven by
debt, to
debt.
create more debt.
which is passed by a bill, spending bill.
Yes. Or
To
to
create
have
more.
yes, or to take on debt at the government level and spend it into the economy. That's the only way that actually increases it.
Okay, so one last comment or one last question.
Or to earn money, or
If-
to earn. Okay, then and how do you do it? How do you do it? How does a bank go and print money?
It's to give out a loan from the deposits. That's what we talked about at the start.
No, they
That's
took. Holy fuck,
Guys,
dude.
I'm
this
glad
guy
we-
is dumb,
Dude,
Like,
okay.
Oh, the fist.
Okay.
The fists
Wait,
are going to be
this
thrown
guy-
here in a
Okay,
minute.
so his deposits. I get what I do. I get what you're saying on the cash and the. If he's putting $1,000 in, you go get a loan for $900, and then you put $900 into
I
a
didn't get a
bank.
loan for $900.
he doesn't want. I'll take the loan, Dane.
Okay,
Here.
Trevor got a loan for $900.
I'll deposit that.
In today's world, or Gabe's $1 million because that's rough. No, more than that got transferred. And then they both go and decide that they're going to spend all of their money on groceries.
Yeah, so that 1,000 can be 10,000. Great. That's done. That process is done. That's what I'm trying to say. That process happened 100 years ago. That process is done. The only way to add to that process now.
Why can't banks can't lend money right now? What are you saying?
No, the only way, they need more deposits. They need Gabe to make a deposit. But Gabe doesn't print money to deposit it. Gabe takes money somewhere else to deposit it.
Reallocation.
I agree with Mike now.
Gabe is reallocating. The only way to add to money supply is if we add money supply,
I
which
see.
comes from the government or the central bank.
Hey, so
You're
you're
saying
saying
it's-
all that money was created at one time a long time ago. This
It's
happened.
already all
It's already
lent
been
out.
leveraged up 10
It's
times.
already been-
It's already
Correct.
lent out.
Oh, it was done once before.
Yes,
We're
it's a
not-
chicken or egg conversation.
we're not
It has
starting
been
from
done.
scratch.
We're not starting from
That
scratch.
changes the whole
All
conversation.
right, Mike,
Exactly.
you win.
Totally different
You win, Mike.
conversation.
Good job.
No, you
It's
didn't
not
say
a
that
totally-
at the start.
That's
You
exactly
said that
what I
that's
said. I
not
said
how
chicken
it
or
works.
egg
Glad we
right at the
figured
very
it out.
beginning. I've said
You
multiple
said that's
times.
not how it works. And then I said if you do lend it out, it creates money. And you said no.
Not now.
No, you're saying because it already did that?
Because no,
I'm saying that's what it does, and you're saying no, it doesn't do that. It already did it. What are you talking about?
You can't do it anymore. You're saying this is what happens.
Nuts.
No, you're literally saying this is what a bank does, and
insane.
I'm saying a bank cannot.
No, banks can't do that. Banks already did it.
I love how we're just next to a conference right now and they can hear us yelling at each other
Absolutely.
through the wall.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Dude,
I'm so glad.
nuts.
I'm so glad. we did
I'm
this.
glad we solved the problem and Mike won, and like he said, Dana's dumb.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that was great. I actually just realized that exactly what I said was wrong because it already happened. Yeah, my bad. I didn't realize that we were talking about.
We're
I have
talking.
no
We're not
idea.
talking about how money was created. We're talking about how is money created.
Yes, of course.
How was it created? How is it created?
Dude,
Was and is are two completely different time frames.
Punch a hole in a wall.
All right.
Oh, this is awesome.
This is now my favorite episode. Just because I won.
Nuts. You didn't win.
Yeah, I vote for
I
Mike.
totally won.
At the end of the episode, you just said you agreed with me from the start, but you were just
No,
explaining
but you just
it
said
a
you
different
agreed
way.
with me.
Because I do now. You said something different.
I did say something
Yes,
different.
you said
No,
that
you just
banks
finally
lending money creates him too. That was the whole point.
No, you
It
just finally gave up
increases
on your
money supply.
argument to hear what
It
I was right the
increases
entire
money
time.
supply. That's been the whole thing. I said that when Gabe puts 1,000 in and then you get 900, that is increasing the money supply. And you said, no, it's not because that already happened. I'm not arguing when it happened. I'm just saying that when that does happen, that's increasing money supply. When it happens, you just said it did that. That's what you just said. You just said when that happens, that's what it does. It increases money supply.
And now but that is controlled.
It already
by
happened.
the Fed and their deposit ratio requirements. That is what controls it. The only way to add to it is not the bank giving loans because the bank's circling money around.
We're in a
So
circle now.
the good news
All
is
good.
the
We
money's
agree.
all slushing around in there. It's going to keep slushing around in there. And we thought that Trump and Doge was going to come along and save the day and stop spending a bunch of money on things we shouldn't be spending money on.
Fucking tea time.
Now we see the budget, and they're spending all the same money just on different things.
It's perfect.
So
We just want inflation. That's
So-
all we want.
No, the best part about all this is we're doing all this to fight inflation, and then we're going to give you free money.
Yeah, we just
Here
want
comes your
inflation.
$5,000 check.
Oh,
Yeah.
they didn't see what happened last time.
I know that.
Oh, is there
fucking
another
blew
check
my
coming?
mind.
I
Oh
hope
yeah.
so.
Oh, you haven't heard that?
No, for what?
They want to give
Doge
us all
checks.
$5,000
$5,000
everyone?
Doge
for
checks.
saving money on things.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, well, there's inflation's coming right back.
Is there a qualification?
No.
Just everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gabe's gonna get $5,000, but he can't spend it because he doesn't have access to it.
Dude, I saw some amazing math. So their new their gold card, their $5 million gold card.
Oh yeah.
So now you can buy U.S. citizenship for $5 million. And so, well, it replaces the
No
H-1
way.
visa, right? So the H-1 visa is you invest $1 million, create 10 jobs, now you can get a visa, right? So they're saying get rid of that. Now it's $5 million. I guess you have to create 5 jobs. But then I saw someone try and do the math on this. It's like, oh, there's 38 million millionaires in the world, and if you do this math, here's $5 million. You take the 37 trillion divided by 5 million, you only need 17,000 millionaires or 17 million millionaires. And then if you do that, well then, and they give five jobs, and then now you have 36 billion jobs, and now we have 0 unemployment.
What are you?
Some fucking math about how the $5 million gold card gets rid of our deficit and fixes unemployment.
And you agree?
No. Just the math theatrics that people can do. It's just like, wow, this is amazing.
Trevor does that.
You know, there's no reality.
Trevor will do that. He'll be like, if we only,
I do
we
this.
only have to sell 100 things to 100 people one time a day for the rest of our lives, and then we'll be trillionaires. And I'm like, yeah, if we could do that, that'd be great. We should figure that out. And he's like, no, it's super possible.
Yeah.
We'll just have to advertise to 10,000 people,
Yeah.
and then if at least 1% of them click the ad, then it'll work.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay.
Statistics.
That works
We need a
for me.
whiteboard in here so we can draw
Write it all
numbers.
down.
Hey, Dane. I
love
appreciate you.
I'm surprised nobody jumped over the table.
Here's the thing is, I really think like I'm wrong, but I also know that I'm right. And I feel like Dane's right, but I also feel like he's wrong.
I don't know if you think you're right. That's what you
He
said.
does.
I
don't know if
I'm
I think I'm right.
All right. I think I might think I'm right.
All right, guys.
All right.
We love you, Deal Junkies. Thanks for listening to Mike and Dane argue about something we still know nothing about. We'll go, we will go read a book and come back another time to explain what's going on with money supply. And
Hey, let's do a book review on where does money come from so I can tell you why I was wrong.
That's what Trevor said earlier.
That's what I just
good.
sent you.
That's
Yes.
a good idea.
Go
You're
buy
active-
that now.
His active listening is kicking in.
Yeah.
Good job, Mike.
Good original idea, Mike.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.